This love story starts with a girl, Tessa. It is her first day at a brand new college that is a bit far away. Her mom and boyfriend decide to drop her off at her new college dorm. There, she is introduced along with two other girls, Steph and Tristan. There's no doubt that these girls are very outgoing and talkative. Her mother smells marijuana and leaves, but Tessa follows her and tells her not to make a big deal out of it. She promises that she can be trusted on this one. Her mother is proud of her and hopes she does well in college. After giving Tessa a cute kiss, her boyfriend also leaves. When Tessa gets back to her room, Steph asks her if she scared her mom. She thinks that her brother is cute, but she sets her straight by saying that he is her boyfriend. Steph leaves after that. The next day, she wakes up and walks excitedly to her class, where she meets a guy named Landon. He is an English major, while Tessa's an economics major. She seems happy and ready for her classes. After a nice bath, she goes back to her dorm and finds a guy sitting in the room and quietly reading a book. She was shocked to see him and asked him to leave, but he told her not to flatten herself because he wasn't looking. When Steph gets there, she makes sure it's her friend. Steph asked her to come to the party with them, but the guy is sure she won't. Before he leaves, he tells her how The Great Gatsby book ends, which ruins it for her. The next day, she was in the library studying and saw the same guy again. This makes her feel very uncomfortable, and for a moment they look at each other. Steph comes up to her later and invites her to a party that night. She said she wouldn't go, but she changed her mind. Steph thinks Tessa's dress is a bit too formal when she sees it. Everyone is drinking and having fun at the party, where they have finally arrived. Steph's friends are later introduced to Tessa. There, they ask her to take a few sips. She hesitates at first, but she ends up drinking a shot right after one of the girls in the group says something mean to her. They decide to play the truth or dare game. Tessa chose truth, and now she's being asked where her craziest romantic moment took place. She decided not to answer the question and instead chose to dare. The bad guy from the group comes over and asks her if she wants to do it, but she is done with the game and walks away. She called her boyfriend, but he sort of yelled at her for drinking, so she hung up. Later, she walks into a storage room that is empty and looks at the book. The bad guy comes up to her again and asks what she was looking for. Tessa is worried that he might be drunk, but he tells her that he doesn't drink either, just like her. While holding her hand, he tells her this is his room. He asks if their dare is still on, because they were almost going to kiss, but she leaves after saying she can't do it. As she walks back to her room, she gets texts from her boyfriend Noah, and at night before bed, she gets texts from him again. The next day, she goes to class and sits next to the same guy named Landon. While it turns out that the guy at the party, whose name is Hardin Scott, is also a newcomer. When the professor asked about the book, or romance, he thinks that love is just a deal, and that everyone is hardwired to want. Show the right set of desirable characteristics that can be turned on and off. On the other hand, Tessa told him that the women in the book turned down the man because he treated them badly, which he thought was amazing. This goes on for a good minute, and when Hardin sees her after class, he tells her that it was exciting and then leaves. She started to tell Landon that he was too proud. She is surprised to hear that Hardin is related to Landon right there. His mother is dating Hardin's dad, and they barely stand each other. Steph gets a tattoo at night and asks Tessa to get one, too. She says that No is the only person she has ever dated, and her mother thinks that they will get married one day. Before she goes to bed, she sees Steph and his girl having a romantic moment, so she moves her face away. The next day, she goes to get coffee and Hardin approaches her. He wants to start over and be friends, since they both know Steph. Hardin wants to show her a place, but she doesn't want to get too close. She was almost going to leave, but she decided to stay with Hardin instead. In his car, they drive a few miles away to a place that looks like a jungle. They keep walking until Tessa's psych catches a big lake. He says that this is his favorite place, asks her to swim. He strips down to his underwear and jumps into the water. He insisted on getting in the water and gave her his t-shirt. He doesn't watch her while she wears it. He takes her slowly into the water and starts having fun. Tessa asked him about the person he loves most, and he told her. He asks her about her boyfriend and learns that he is a high school student who loves her. He tells her to stop breathing and shows her how to be quiet. Hardin looked at her like he had found some kind of forbidden diamond. She asked him if he wanted to be friends, but he told her that they couldn't be friends, so they started kissing passionately. After that, he moves his eyes away from her again so she can change, but Tessa touches him instead, and they start to have romantic moments. She was breathing faster with every touch she felt. Later, they go to a bar together. Tessa asked him about his past, but he decided not to answer. She asks him why he doesn't believe in love after what happened in class. He tells her not to believe everything he says, which makes Tessa laugh. Steph and another Hardin's friend join him, which makes him act a little strange. Later, he tells Tessa that it was all fun, but that he doesn't date, even though Tessa was about to tell his boyfriend about them. After she leaves, Hardin looks a little sad. Back in her room, Hardin is sitting next to her when she wakes up. This was just a dream, though. The next day, her boyfriend is waiting for her outside with flowers. She just couldn't believe he was there. Both Tessa and Noah go to a party at night, where Steph and her group decide to play the suck and blow game. When it's Tessa's turn, she doesn't take part. Noah acts a little protective, but Hardin steps in and they start to fight. Right after, Hardin leaves. Tessa watched a movie with Noah later that night, but she was worried about something. Landon calls her at night and she goes to meet him. She finds out that Hardin and Landon had a fight, and Landon mentioned her name, so she might be able to help Hardin. She finds out that he is upset that his father is getting married to Landon's mother while her mother lives in a dump in London. He breaks the glass, and when Tessa tries to get it, she hurts herself. He takes her to his room and tells her he's sorry for how he treated her before. Hardin says that he is a mess, and Tessa agrees that she, too, is a mess. When they both see this, they have a small romantic moment. One thing led to another, and she ended up sleeping in his room all night. She walks up to Noah, who is really worried about her, and tells him what's going on. As soon as he sees Hardin standing there and figures out what's going on, he runs away. He leaves right after that. She walks back to her dorm in tears, and Molly sees her. Tessa feels like she lost one of her best friends. What she was feeling was hard to put into words. She was sad in class, and when she tried to talk to Noah, she sees Hardin outside one day, and they decide to talk. He did not think he would see her. She began to talk about how her father had left when she was only 10 years old. Noah was there to help her mother handle the pain when she was taking care of her. Noah is her best friend, but she reveals that he is so much more. One day, Hardin tells Tessa she has to stay until the library closes. She sits on his lap as he reads a book. Security finds them and goes after them. They laugh as they run away. Both of them were going to remember this time. Their friends were starting to notice how close they were. Hardin wouldn't even wait for her class to come inside so he could tell her she was beautiful. Tessa noticed one day that Hardin was writing in the notebook. He makes fun of her a lot when she wants to see it. After that, they start having romantic moments. Her mother opens the door suddenly and sees them in a revealing position. This was enough to really anger her. She began pointing fingers at her roommate. She thinks that a boy will ruin Tessa's life. Tessa starts to argue with her mother and tells her that she will live her life the way she wants to and not the way her mother wants her to. This saddens and upsets her mother. Before she leaves, she says he will break her heart and cut her off. She tells Landon about this later, but he thinks it's Hardin's problem. He told her she should be careful. Hardin takes Tessa to a place owned by a friend of his father's who is living in Italy at the moment. Hardin says that we should all live here. Her mother told her to stop, so Hardin had to take action. They both move into this place and start to have a happy relationship. Most of the time, they are together, laughing and enjoying the little things. Both of them go places together a lot. Still, Hardin can't believe that she is now his. He thinks that he doesn't deserve her, while Tessa thinks that nothing will change how she feels about him. They later go to Hardin and Landon's parents' wedding party. Both of them meet with Landon's mom, Karen, and dad. Everyone is glad to meet Tessa. When Hardin sees his father with another woman, he gets very angry and Tessa tries to calm him down. Father begins to give a speech in front of everyone. Even though he is praising Hardin, he tells Tessa that this is not the father he knew when he was growing up. Even though he has changed, some things never change. He started to describe a situation. One day, his father hangs out with the wrong people at a pub. When they came back to his house to get their payback, he couldn't stop them from hurting his real mother. Later, they start dancing while looking each other in the eyes. They go into a room where Tessa decides to do something romantic. Molly looks at Tessa with envy one day, and then she starts to ask about her boyfriend. She wants to know more about Hardin, but Tessa doesn't say much about him. Later, Molly sends a text message to Hardin's phone that makes Tessa very suspicious of Hardin. When she asks him what he is hiding, he tells her to trust him and that there is nothing to hide. She's worried and waiting for Hardin to call. One of her friends sends her a text message telling her to meet him at the Videodrome to talk about Hardin. She sits in the car and finds Jade there. Jade tells her that he might be at Blind Bob's. Steph and her friends are with her there. She says that she and Hardin have been living together outside of school. Molly says that something is going on, but not what she thinks. She shows her a video of the day they played Truth or Dare for the first time. Hardin had been given a dare meant to make her fall in love with her. He would just turn it off when this happens. Couldn't believe what she saw and is very shocked. He tells her that's not true, that it was all true before, and that his feelings were true. She goes away without waiting any longer. At this moment, Tessa feels more alone than she ever has before. She goes back home and hugs her mom when she sees her. She doesn't want to talk about what really happened, but she was there to say that she was sorry. Tessa also told her she loved her and later walked away to meet Noah. He was confused about why she was there. She tells him that she was never trying to hurt him. He didn't mind, and they started to laugh. Tessa goes back to school and starts to write an email to tell them she wants to switch her major from economics to English. Hardin, on the other hand, couldn't get over their breakup and started crying when he thought about all the times they spent together. She gets a call for an interview about her internship at Vance Publishing later. Tessa was listening to a lecture when the teacher later gave her an envelope. She said Hardin gave it to her, but she explained that it was more for Tessa than for her. Hardin was drawing pictures of Tessa in his notebook, which Tessa sees. She also reads a piece of literature by Hardin in which he says he read hundreds of books, but he didn't believe in love until he met Elizabeth Bennet. He never thought he could be completely taken in by her, hold her hands, or follow her out of the darkness. He lastly asked for forgiveness. She once asked him who in the world he loved most. He says that it's Tessa, and the movie ends here.